guys, Assalamualaikum, salam malam Jumaat, salam satu kapitalis semua. So today is a session of Q&A whereby I akan jawab banyak soalan-soalan yang tak dijawab ataupun kita mungkin tak sempat nak cover lagi. So hari ni I akan ambil peluang tu untuk jawab lebih kurang I think 7 soalan yang kita dah pilih. And then on top of that, kita akan jawab 3 soalan yang you guys tengah tanya. So sekarang ni kalau you ada apa-apa soalan yang you rasa soalan tu best, you can actually type it right now dekat dalam video ni supaya kita boleh pick up. If you ada lucky 3, I akan dapat jawab soalan tu live right now lepas kita dah habis dah 7 soalan ni. Okay, so malam ni kita ada beberapa soalan panas so whereby I cakap panas sebab banyak orang yang bagi saya sedang bertanya and yang kelakar ni yang bertanya tu dia punya pengalaman untuk buat benda tu sebenarnya tak berapa banyak pun, tapi sebab mereka bertanya kan, so kita jawab. Okay, so I think the most important one is that this idea of multiple submission. So tu soalan pertama, right? Multiple submission ni selamat ke tak, relevan ke ataupun tidak. Okay, so for me I think it's not a very simple answer to jawab yes ataupun no, right? So I have prepared a couple of presentation slide supaya you boleh tengok, supaya you boleh faham konteks dia, bila nak pakai, bila tak pakai, benda ni bagus ke ataupun benda ni tak bagus ke. So I'm gonna quickly share my screen. Sekarang ni macam biasa my presentation will be dekat in English, tapi I akan cakap bahasa supaya semua orang boleh faham. So I akan pergi dekat I punya full screen. Christina, can you confirm that we have now seen full screen and the audio is good?
Full screen audio is good.
Okay. So before apa-apa tak sure kalau I share ni you boleh dengar audio dia sekali tak? There you go. Alright. So, I nak you tengok video ni. Video ni adalah video beberapa minit mengenai kereta. So, dia tak ada kaitan sangat dengan rumah, tapi I think you will highlight the point apa yang I cuba nak sampaikan malam ini berkenaan dengan multiple submission. So, I nak you pay full attention to the video that I tengah nak share. Agak entertaining jugalah, and minta maaf kalau ada language yang tak berapa bagus. Maklumlah, bahasa orang putih ni dia orang punya mencarut tu kuat sikit. So bukan ayam mencarut, orang putih tu yang mencarut. Okay, so anyway, tengok video ni dulu. Oh my god. Wow. Tak boleh tepuk tangan je, so mak tu selamat. Jesus Christ. Oh shit. Oh. Fuck. Sorry. Ayat. Oh fuck. Sorry, carut je. Oh shit. Bukan carut lah, tarik.
Back up real fast. Back up. We're in traffic too. Back up. Back up. Come this way.
Mamak ni lagi mati. Buat kita macam ni.
Pendejo se fue con el carro.
Ngomong-ngomong begitu.
Oye, contigo carro.
Oh shit.
Then you hit it like this. Oh my god, oh my god. That's really fast. See? Oh,
Are you okay?
I'm
Dah
good.
ada anak.
Good.
Fuck! Fuck!
Kalau alright. Oh, tak nak tengok lagi dah. Cukup lah. Quite depressing video-video ni. Okay. So, berbalik kepada cerita multiple sub kan. So, basically kalau you tengok dalam video tadi, you akan nampak video tadi semuanya ada kereta bagus-bagus, kereta mahal. Tapi semuanya berakhir dalam aksiden. Adakah semua kereta bagus dan mahal tu akan berakhir dalam aksiden? Tak. Sebab bergantung kepada orang yang memandu. The driver counts. Okay. The problem dengan video-video tadi yang you nampak tu is that you are the driver yang orang cakap tidak berpengalaman, tidak ada skill. Tetapi rasa macam mereka tu terror and mereka tu ada skill and therefore cuba buat. Orang cakap bawa kita laju-laju, kereta mahal and of course cuba buat stunt yang whereby mereka are not equipped, are not skilled to go and do. Okay. So kalau you tengok contoh macam ni kan, kalau kita berbalik kepada cerita multiple sub tadi kan, whereby you ada property macam ni, dia dekat fringe of Bukit Bintang, and installment 5,000 campur dengan maintenance, mereka cuba buat Airbnb and income dia dekat owner dapat RM300. So bayar 5,000 setiap bulan plus maintenance kepada bank, dapat sewa 300. So tiap-tiap bulan negative cash flow dia 4,700. And guess what? Ada tak orang yang beli multiple unit, multiple sub kat sini? Oh, lambat guys. So benda ni berjadi skandal sekejap tahun lepas, whereby a lot of people are quite upset lah dengan orang yang bawa mereka pergi beli property tu. And of course then yang orang cakap dia punya sifu, okay, yang bawa tu pun kena, and of course mereka yang melabur tu pun kena juga. Kenapa kau follow macam tu je? Right? So if you tengok property ni, how many of unit of property ni yang you nak beli waktu tahun 2015? Because for me, this is a shit property. I don't even want to buy one, let alone nak buy a few units. Okay? Negative cash flow 4,700 sebulan guys. I hope sekarang dah better, tapi kalau plan orang buat Airbnb, I think sekarang macam lagi teruk. Because of the PKP apa semua ni, the Airbnb business kat city centre is like gone case. Okay? That's why I keep on saying one of the criteria bila you nak beli rumah baru adalah multiple rental option. You cannot rely on only one rental option in order to survive. Ya, sebab kalau plan A doesn't work, plan B, plan C apa semua tu doesn't work, mampus lah property tu. So this is one of the example. Okay? Ni property ni satu pun you tak nak beli. Okay? Negative cash flow 4,700 sebulan. Okay? Ni pula dekat Johor. Okay? Sama, terlebih bayar, dia tak faham konsep new versus old, dia tak faham konsep median, main bantai je beli. And Mamat ni sepatutnya kira power lah daripada segi pelaburan, tapi hartanah tu mungkin kurang sikit. Tapi dia mengajar orang melabur dalam ada investment class. So technically level cikgu ni, power ni. Bayar bank belum lah 5,000, campur maintenance, sewa 1,900 kepada Airbnb operator. Hari ni tak tahu sewa tu dibayar ataupun tidak, sebab Airbnb operator tu pun tak boleh nak operate sebab hari ni pelancong pun tak boleh nak datang ke Johor. We all cannot move. So how can they survive? Okay, so in the event dia bayar 1,900 ni, negative cash flow dia adalah 3,100 sebulan. Okay, so property ni dijual pada tahun 2014, 2015, 2016. Okay, and orang yang tanya ni tanya patut beli ke tak patut beli waktu tu 2016. So I cakap dengan dia jangan beli macam biasa. Bila kita bagi free advice, orang dengar tak? Tak dengar. tak percaya apalah yang Faizul tahu pasal undercon property investment ni kan. Hampir je mak ni kembang sembang je. Dah cakap dengan beli. Okay. So hari ni installment 5,000 sebulan plus maintenance, sewa 1,900. Negative cash flow dia cuma 3,100 je sebulan. So guys, property ni korang nak beli berapa unit kalau diberi peluang yang sama? Nak beli 1, nak beli 5 ataupun nak beli kosong? Sebab for me, the reason kenapa I dah warn cakap memang sewa takkan boleh cover. We are quite familiar dengan market Johor, right? And I bought 9 biji property kat Johor, right? So I think I am qualified a little bit to share my views. I wouldn't say I'm an expert, tapi sebagai owner 9 biji property kat Johor and tak rugi, I think I can say something lah. In this case, I dah cakap, tak didengar. Well, dia menyalahkan nasib dia yang kurang baik kerana terbeli property ni, okay? Nasib kurang baik, terbeli property ni, okay? Walhal dah bagi tahu jangan beli. Tak apa, okay? So ni negative cash flow. So kalau you tengok property yang tadi, negative cash flow 4,700 sebulan. Property ni pula 3,100 sebulan. Berapa biji property macam ni yang kurang patut beli? Of course, the jawapannya adalah kosong. Okay. Now, so adakah ini bermaksud the idea of beli property multiple submission ni ataupun beli property beberapa unit serentak ni is a really bad idea? Okay. So for me, the answer is simple. Kalau property tu property yang bagus, okay je kalau nak buat multiple sub. Kalau property tu property yang taik, satu pun kau tak patut beli. Okay. I think it's as simple as that. I think my anak umur 11 tahun pun boleh faham kot konsep ni. Right? Benda tu tak bagus, jangan nak beli. Not even one. Kalau benda tu bagus, why do you want to buy just one? So dia sebenarnya bergantung. Macam kereta tadi, kalau you tengok. Banyak yang accident semuanya Ford Mustang. Adakah ini bermaksud Ford Mustang ni adalah kereta yang teruk? Tak. Ada je ramai kawan saya yang bawa Ford Mustang, tak ada pun accident. Because dia orang ni driver yang berhemat. Dia boleh control mesin tu. Right? But ada orang baru dapat kereta best, baru ada power skate, cuba tekan, boom, accident. Ya. Orang cakap ni tak ukur baju kat badan sendiri. Skill tu tak ada. Nak kawal kenderaan macam tu. So multiple submission ni is sama. You ada skill, multiple sub, good. You tak ada skill, multiple sub, jadi kubur. Okay. So, I bagi contoh. Right? Now, if you dah follow webinar ni, you know that the best property that I've seen in terms of high rise in 2009-2010 adalah this thing called Park Residence, whereby value dia naik daripada 320,000 kepada 1.28 juta. Now guys, if you know what you know today, and I know what I know today, and we can go back in 2009 and beli property Park Residence ni, agak-agak korang beli 1 ke ataupun korang akan beli 10? Because for me the answer is clear. I will buy 10. If 1 unit makes me 1 million, 10 unit makes me 10. It's a simple mathematics. Okay? But I tak tahu apa yang I tahu hari ni. Therefore, I cuma boleh cakap, tak apalah aku belajar. Right? I learn. I become better. The next time I see the next Park Residence, I takkan beli 1 je. I takkan beli 2 je. I akan beli sebanyak yang boleh. Dan kita dah jumpa pun the next Park Residence. That's why hari ni, property tu lah I nak beli lebih daripada 20 biji. One single development. Okay. Yang sebelah kanan tu pula is my own property called Titi Wangsa Central. Waktu tu saya beli pada harga 240,000. Value dia naik pergi 600,000. I would say this is my best purchase. Okay. Rental tak pernah kurang pada negative cash flow 1,000 daripada siap sampai hari ni. So bayangkan tiap-tiap tahun positive cash flow 20,000. Dah kali hampir 10 tahun ni. Lebih kurang 200,000. So harga dah naik 350,000, 400,000 minimum. On top of that, dapat positive cash flow hampir 10 tahun ni, hampir 200,000. Satu property guys, buat you 600,000 total. Capital gain plus cash flow. Okay. Now, saya cuma beli 3 je property ni waktu tu, sebab tak sure. Okay, developer tak berapa kenal sangat, and last I bagi 1 kepada my brother-in-law. So, I simpan 2 je. Hari ni sampai mati pun I takkan jual property ni. Okay, sebab ni telur emas. Okay. Now, if I know apa yang I tahu hari ni, agak-agak I akan berhenti untuk beli 2 saja ke ataupun akan gasak sebanyak yang boleh. Sebab 1 unit bagi I positive cash flow purata dalam 9 tahun, 1,500. Ni bukan buat sewa by kepala, ini bukan buat sewa per bilik, ini tak ada buat sublet. Ini regular sewa guys. Normal. Kalau I buat sublet, positive cash flow 2,000 sebulan. Okay. If I ada 10 unit ni, and I buat multiple sub at that point of time dengan this development, I would have 20,000 positive cash flow today on one single development. Kalau kenaikan harga purata adalah 300 setengah satu unit, I beli 10, I ada 3.5 juta. So guys, multiple submission ni adalah teknik. Teknik ni kalau guna cara betul boleh buat duit. Kalau guna cara yang salah boleh mati. Okay. That's the reality. Teknik tu tak bersalah. Kereta tu tak bersalah. Yang bersalah orang yang memandu tak betul. Orang yang memandu tanpa lesen. Yang tak ada skill untuk memandu kereta-kereta mahal macam tu. Okay. So, for me, multiple sub is just one of the teknik yang enable kita untuk beli property banyak-banyak. Teknik tu tak salah. Adakah masih relevan? Masih relevan buat masa ini. Okay, buat masa ini. But, boleh tak lagi dibuat lepas tahun 2020? Saya rasa besar kemungkinan tak boleh lah. Okay, besar kemungkinan tak boleh lah. I don't even know you boleh buat benda ni lepas bulan 6 tahun. Okay, so, yang ni adalah unit yang klien saya beli. Saya tunjuk property ni sebab property ni is property yang dah sampai tempoh matang. Okay. Beli pada harga 420,000, siap tahun lepas. Okay. Hari ni sebab diorang letak roughly about 20,000 punya down payment apa semua tu, loan tak sampai 400,000. So hari ni kalau dia cuba jual, dia boleh dapat lebih pada 500,000. Gains dia dah lebih pada 100k versus baki loan yang ada. Right. Sewa pula, bayar bank bulan-bulan 1,700, 1,800. Hari ni kita punya gross rental is 32 hingga 36. Positive cash flow gross lebih pada 1,000 sebulan. Now guys, berapa biji property ni yang korang nak beli if you have the opportunity to buy and you know what you know today, right? And to me the answer is gonna be as many as possible. Sebab if satu biji bagi 1,000 positive cash flow, 5 biji dah bagi 5,000. If satu biji bagi 100,000 capital gain, 5 biji dah 500,000. And we're not talking lepas 20 tahun baru dapat benda ni. You are talking about siap, tiba dapat. Okay. So guys, like I said, if benda tu benda yang bagus, you tak nak beli satu je. Kalau benda tu benda yang bagus, well, kalau benda tu benda yang bagus, you memang takkan beli satu je. Right? If benda tu memang taik, you don't want to even touch one unit. Why? Buat apa? Negative cash flow 2-3,000 satu unit. Why? There's no point. Okay. Now, so hari ni, ini projek yang saya dengan klien-klien saya tengah beli. So for example, kalau you tengok yang nombor 1 tu, is the only property yang kita orang tahu hari ni, based on rental sekeliling ada, and property baru, whereby positive cash flow, kita orang akan jadi 4 angka. So ni sama level dengan Titi Wangsa Central dulu lah, kalau you tanya dengan saya. Right? And harga pertengahan kat kawasan tu ataupun median ni lebih kurang 900,000. Kita orang tengah beli pada harga 600 dan ke bawah. Kita orang tengah beli at 40% cheaper new versus old tu. But old purata is 900,000 guys. Kita orang tengah beli pada harga 600. Tak sampai pun ada. Okay. So positive cash flow 1,000 lebih. We are buying at 200,000 cheaper compared to median. So therefore agak-agak kita orang beli satu ke ataupun kita orang akan beli sebanyak yang boleh. Right? So for me, this is the only property I can beli lebih pada 10 personally for me. Okay? Simply because cash flow dia tu. So if you ask me the question of will I do multiple submission, the answer is yes, because I can identify property yang macam ni. If you cannot, jangan. Okay? What's the point of beli property banyak-banyak? Gebang sembang you ada 50 property tapi semuanya negative cash flow. Negative cash flow you 50,000 sebulan. For what? You just buy what you can understand. So again, multiple submission tu is a technique. Taktik tu boleh digunakan dengan cara yang betul, boleh digunakan dengan cara yang salah. So tu pilihan kita. Okay. So I urge siapa-siapa yang tengah tengok video ni hari ni is that you tolong jangan buat multiple submission unless you are very sure the property that you're going to buy is going to be safe. And I dah cakap dah kalau you nak main under construction property, you kena faham 7 kriteria tu. Semalam I dah share new versus old. And I will share the next 6 on the next coming couple of weeks. Okay. So now, this is basically the plan to 10 juta. So basically, you cannot reach 10 juta unless you have minimum 10 biji property lah guys. Right? So, we can argue, for example, multiple submission tu bagus ataupun tak, but this is the requirement to hit to 10 juta. You kena ada minimum 10. If you don't even have 10 biji property, you will not be able to reach 10 million. Okay? If you are like me, you aspire to masuk the 8-figure punya club, okay? 8 angka, right? Geng 8 angka. So, whereby your net worth kena lebih daripada 10 juta. Then you need to own, kalau you nak pakai property, you need to own at least 10. So, whether multiple sub or not, it doesn't matter. Tapi that's the requirement untuk masuk ke 8 digit punya club. Right? And that is what kita orang sekarang ni tengah buat for a lot of our clients hari ni. Okay? Because they aspire to, well, join the 8 digit punya club. Now, so I nak summarize kan pasal multiple submission ni. Okay. First one here is that you will see a lot of bad news about multiple submission ni because of people yang tengah buat tu are people who are number one inexperienced, ilmu tak cukup, belajar 30% tapi dia rasa dia dah tahu 100%. Right? So, that's problem number one. Problem number two here is that bila you nak buat benda-benda macam ni, can you please speak with someone who actually made money from investment, bukan orang yang made money from seminar. Okay? When it comes to this, experience matter. Okay? Sebab you are going to take 4, 5, 6, 7 biji property or 10. Can you afford to do it with someone who has never been there and done it before? If dia sendiri tak pernah beli sampai 10, 20, 30 biji property and make money and become a billionaire because of property, what makes you think he can help you? Okay, so guys, like I said, experience matter and pick the right mentor. Sebab if you don't, memang cloud. Okay. Now, bad property, satu unit pun you tak nak beli. Okay, tak payah cerita pasal multiple sub. It's all about whether is it a good property or bad property. Good property you nak beli. Minimum 1, kalau boleh, you mampu you beli sebanyak yang boleh. You know, because good property don't come very often. Bad property, why do you even want to buy 1? Okay. And then, number 4 here is that, like I said, good property ni, kalau boleh, you nak beli sebanyak yang boleh. Okay. You cannot just join the 1% club. Maksudnya 1% club of orang paling kaya kat Malaysia ni, whereby you kena ada minimum net worth of 3 juta, right? So that's the price that you pay in order to join 1% punya club. Okay? If you want to be part of the 1%, then you need to have at least 3 juta punya net worth, right? 10 to 20 years from now. And you can't do it with minimum 5 biji property. So, I will leave whether multiple sub is something you should do or not. Tapi, like I said lah, if you aspire to be part of the 1%, orang paling berada kat Malaysia ni, then basically kalau you nak buat guna property, especially if you are employee today, then you just need to own 5 biji property, right? That is the minimum requirement to join. Okay, and then point number 5, you have to understand like every other thing, every other investment or every other business venture, there's no such thing as a risk-free investment. You minimize your risk bila you tambah your knowledge. Okay. Now, and you also have to remember, risk is harga yang kita bayar for the opportunity to join the 1%. Okay? Right? This is the reality. Guys, have you ever seen someone who becomes super rich, don't take any risk, hari-hari pergi kerja, balik sampai pukul 6, lepas tu spend time dengan family dia, you know? There must be some form of sacrifice and risk you take. Anyone who can tell you, that dia become kaya sebab bekerja saja is number 1, super rare, whereby you become CEO of a GLC ataupun MC apa semua tu and gaji you well 6 angka, 7 angka setahun. Okay, that's fine. Right? But for most people, if you want to join the 1% tu, you got to take some risk. Okay? And you have to work harder than most people. Right? Now, I'm going to share with you a story of my mentor. My mentor ni ada 2 orang. Okay, dia orang ni, one is a quarter to a semi-billionaire. So, 250 juta hingga 500 juta. Dia tak adalah bagi tahu Faizul net worth aku 450 juta, 99 sen. Tak ada. Tapi dia kat situ lah. Okay. These two control a public listed company. Okay. And the other one, is almost a billionaire, right? So, satu Cina, satu Melayu, right? When they started their business at 20-something years old and they had no money and they need to raise $500,000, do you know what these guys did? Each of them apply 20 biji credit card, okay, and then max out so that they can have a capital of 500 hingga 600 ribu to buy a business because they saw an opportunity. Now, is that something I would recommend you to do? Absolutely not. Okay, but guys, if they don't do that, these guys are not going to be worth 250 million, almost 1 billion today. Okay? If you want to be the top 1%, the top 0.1%, you must take some risk. Multiple submission is risky, for sure. You minimize your risk by beli property yang betul. Right? So again, I'm not condoning that you go and take massive risk membabi buta. No, that's not the whole point. I'm just saying, you want to reach at this level, there's a price that you need to pay, and risk is that price. And how do you minimize your risk as much as possible? Is that you become more knowledgeable at doing what you're about to do. For them, happy ending. 20 credit card, multiple sub credit card. Okay, 500 ribu, interest 18%, guys. They fully pay off everything within 2 tahun. And today, quarter of a billionaire, semi-billionaire, maybe one of them now is already a billionaire at the private jet. Okay. Now, so again, and of course, for me myself, have I done multiple submission? Sure, berpuluh kali kot. Myself, EV partner, my family member, semua buat. Okay. And I'm not going to be able to make 5 million from the last recession from properties. Okay, not from seminar. Okay. If I didn't take calculated risk, I've done my numbers. I know inshallah sewa will be okay, and I buy as many property as possible. Remember my story? I bought about 20 property before end of 2010, and bila each and every single one of that property naik value by double and sometimes triple, I become a multi-millionaire. I was able to keep my job. I was able to stay in Mont Kiara. And today, I drive a decent car because, I took some risk. Right? So, the point I'm trying to make here, guys, is that everything that you do from investment to business, apa semua tu, there's going to be some element of risk. There's no such thing as a guaranteed success. If you don't want to take any risk, right? You don't want to increase your skill in managing the risk, in this case, driving that car, just stick to driving Myvi. Although some driver Myvi bawa kereta macam, boleh kalah Lamborghini lah, right? But what I'm trying to say here is that, if you takut, just be safe, don't do anything, don't take any risk, but don't ask the question, kenapa orang tu kaya, dia ni jadi kroni ke, saya boleh fitnah lagi kan, mamak ni geng UMNO, simply because, some people took the risk and the risk paid off because they saw something and benda tu dapat and jadi as per the calculation and they become multi-millionaires, sometimes billionaires, right? And if you are not willing to take the risk, then it's fine and there's nothing wrong at all kalau you tak nak. Simply because it's a choice. Just drive a Myvi. Don't need to drive a Lamborghini. Right? So guys, right, that would be my summary when it comes to multiple submission, right? So, I'm going to start taking questions, right? Hang on, let me read up some of the questions yang ada kat sini. Okay, nombor 2. Saya sendiri pernah beli property pada lelong at 70% below market. Tapi kenapa I disagree dengan Dr. Ernest punya point, okay, in our debate hari tu, right? So that would be the question. So guys, here's the thing. When I talk about new versus old, itu I ada cerita kan, kenapa kita orang beli primary market. Kalau primary market ni, once you ada certain ilmu, 7 kriteria tu you dah faham, it becomes extremely predictable. So maksudnya bukan seorang dia boleh buat benda tu, 100 orang beli benda yang sama pada harga yang sama akan dapat benda tu, right? As long as you do the step and the process. So yang my lelong punya property tu yang beli at 70% below market value tu is that Number one, only I can do it. So if it's not available to anyone, so to me it's not a general punya thing whereby semua orang akan dapat, right? So macam I cakap dah itu, even dalam lelong versus subsale versus primary market tu, I will not even look at lelong unless it's 40% below market value. Okay, I dah cakap sesiap. And I'm true to my words whereby the only 9 biji property lelong yang I beli are all 60 to 70% below market value. Okay, so the problem here is that can everyone do what I do? Then the answer is cannot. So if they cannot, kalau benda ni bukan untuk semua orang, therefore you cannot come and say benda tu akan berlaku untuk semua orang. So therefore, in my session hari tu, first I want to apologize if my muka tu I tak boleh nak control sangat, because like I said, I see a lot of factual error, and to me macam I don't want to mislead the audience, therefore I feel like macam I nak kena betulkan. But at the same time, I'm speaking to someone who is there for 40 years in the industry, and I have to be respectful on it. But the reality here is that data tu banyak salah. So for example, property value dia jatuh 30% waktu 97-98, index langsung tak sama. Index tunjuk kejatuhan cuma 10% one year and then 2% the next year. Total 12% for 2 tahun. So tak ada, 30% tak ada, tak wujud. Number one. Number two here is that ekonomi kita waktu tu lagi bagus pada waktu sekarang. Itu lagilah salah, right? Dulu kebergantungan kita kepada oil revenue is so high compared to today. Today tak sampai 20%. Our deposit dulu tak sampai pun 400 billion deposit in the bank. Today our deposit in banking system today is more than 1 trillion. Dah naik almost 200%. So how can our economy is worse off compared to waktu tu? To me tak masuk akal langsung. Okay, and the fact that IMF dengan World Bank is now predicting that Malaysia will grow at 5.8% and 9% respectively next year, and this is not something Menteri Ekonomi cakap ataupun MOF cakap. This is something that came from World Bank and IMF. They are actually quite objective bila dia tengok benda tu, right? So therefore this notion of our country is in trouble tu, the idea is no, right? So I have to disagree, and I have to make it public in terms of this disagreements, but I tak nak people being misled, right? So therefore, unlike I don't think that even Dr. Ernest pun tak cakap semua property akan jatuh 70%. Dia akan cakap selectively, But even for me, tak sampai 1%. It will not even be 0.1% of property yang ada hari ini akan jatuh at the 70%. It's almost impossible. Okay, if anything, like I said, nanti in one of the grand finale punya webinar right before PKP, I akan tunjukkan kenapa I think harga rumah akan naik 20% to 30% in the next 3 tahun. My data is very clear, right? I use data, I use facts, my client dah nampak dah, all of them are damn excited about it. Even people who are skeptical pun macam, hey, you know what, you are right. Okay, so I saw something that people don't see, and therefore my views are a little bit more different, tapi it's not a gut feeling ataupun a hunch. I use data to arrive at that conclusion, and I've shown the data to my clients, and don't worry, insyaAllah ada rezeki I can share to you guys juga kalau korang nak tengoklah data tu. So siapa nak tengok, angkat tangan, bagi tahu kat ruang komen lah, you nak tengok kenapa I rasa property value akan naik 20 to 30% in the next 3 hingga 5 tahun, whereby we have a mini property bull run, right? So kalau ramai yang nak tahu, okay, I akan sharekan data tu, right? So I think that would be my point. Kenapa I disagree dengan Dr. Ernest, simply because I think my data is really pointing to a completely different direction compared to the data yang Dr. Ernest cakap. So I think from an income point of view, we have grown. Loan moratorium is a phenomenal move to reduce NPL sebab 97-98. Kenapa dia crash is that kita naikkan interest rate, lepas tu banyak NPL. Naik from 4% to become 20% NPL. Gila lah naik gila, betul-betul banyak kan. As of today guys, because of interest rate jatuh, loan moratorium ada, technically there's no NPL. Sebab tu saya cakap, loan moratorium ni is one of the best move you can make during economic crisis macam ni. But of course, we study economy a little bit, we read a lot more, kita just bukan tengok Malaysia je, kita tengok globally what's going on. So kerja saya everyday hari ni is that lepas pukul 2, bila kerja hakiki kat office ni ataupun kat rumah ni dah habis, I can actually spend 4 jam until subuh to just baca what's going on globally, so that I nampak perspektif. Okay, so because of that I disagree. on harga rumah akan jatuh. If anything, harga rumah tu akan naik. If you want to know, bagi tahu kat ruangan komen, and insyaAllah kita akan share before PKP ends. Right? So tu soalan yang kedua. Kenapa I disagree dengan Dr. Ernest. Lepas tu, soalan yang ketiga adalah hari tu bila I tunjuk contoh lelong subsale undercon and powering price different segment, don't you think my data is not accurate? No, I don't think so. I siap bagi tahu lagi kat dalam I punya comparison tu is that lelong dengan subsale you akan buat 150,000 profit, but primary market you buat 75 je for the same 400,000 punya property. Right? So to me, I don't think it's not accurate. And kalau you nak cerita pasal accuracy, right? This is a property at 400,000 bro. Under construction property 400,000. Okay. Hari ni dah naik pergi 500,000. So 420 to 500,000 dah naik pergi 80,000. So this is the price point dekat bricks hari ni kalau korang tengok how much people are selling. Okay. So therefore, I don't think I'm being unfair, I'm being unreasonable. I siap guna case study based on apa yang ada. Right? So therefore, I siap cakap lagi. Primary market untung dia 75,000 je. Walhal subsale dengan lelong, I bagi chance 150,000. Tapi sebab modal yang diperlukan untuk primary market tu sikit, dia punya ROI tu nampak besar, beribu%. Modal 5,000. You know, but lelong, secondary market, modal kena tinggi. 10% down payment, legal fee lagi, repair lagi, furniture lagi nak kena bayar. Right? So kalau you tak ada modal at least 20%, you janganlah beli subsale ataupun lelong. Ya, sebab yang tu yang you perlukan. Right? So I don't think my data is in any way trying to get people to really macam highlight unformal advantage of undercon subsale dengan lelong. You know my preference kenapa I suka beli property baru. I dah tunjuk ni usaha semalam. My data is very very clear. I tunjuk multiple case study. Ni bukannya cerita gebang sembang bro. Right? So I've shown a lot of successful case study, and also, you know, is there property yang beli undercon yang rugi? Yes. Sebab dia tak follow 7 rule tu. You follow 7 rule tu, you dapat yang ni. Beli undercon buat duit. You tak follow tu, beli 1 juta jatuh pergi 700,000 pun ada. But siapa suruh beli property yang tu? Right? I dah cakap dah. Undercon, skill you kena tinggi. Lelong dengan subsale tak perlu skill sangat. You boleh kira sewa versus harga hari ni, installment okey, jalan. Senang. Undercon ni banyak gila benda nak kena tengok guys. Right? So, nombor 4. Strategi FR consider tak berapa banyak RPGT kena bayar atau memang buat purchase dengan discount untuk turn, tak flipping. Ya, tax strategi ni. Okay guys. So ni kenapa kita orang lagi satu kita orang ni suka gila beli primary market ni. So can you imagine, hari ni klien saya ada beli unit, discount dia 20%. Ada yang discountnya 25%, ada yang discount dia 31%, ada yang discount dia 36%. Okay. Baru-baru ni ada satu lagi projek yang kita orang dapat, tapi ni harga banglo lah kan. 40% discount guys. Okay. So, the beauty here is that for some of this unit, I guess, the first 200,000 or the first 300,000 punya keuntungan, zero tax even pun korang jual besok. So, ni teknik ni taktik level higher jugalah. So, for us yang kat primary market ni, kita orang tak risau sangat pasal PGT. Sebab the first 100,000, 200,000, kadang-kadang 300,000 first profit tu, actually kita orang bayar zero tax even though kita orang jual property ni tahun depan. But kalau you beli property sama kat subsale, you cuba jual tahun depan, you kena bayar 30% tax pada keuntungan pada 300,000 ni. But kita orang first 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 ni boleh jadi free. Bergantung pada benda yang dia beli. Alright? So kita orang memang tak risau langsung pasal RPGT. Sebab for me RPGT is a good problem. Kalau kena bayar RPGT, tangan yang perlu bayar RPGT adalah jauh lebih bertuah dengan tangan yang tak perlu bayar RPGT. Sebab tangan yang bayar RPGT tu maksudnya dia untung. Baru kena bayar RPGT tu guys. Alright. Tangan yang rugi tak pernah kena bayar RPGT. So kalau asyik beli property dah rugi je, korang bersorak lah kot, tak perlu nak bayar RPGT. Tapi what's the point? Right. So kalau boleh, you know, you want to be in a position whereby you punya RPGT tu 6 angka. Okay. Now, I punya lah buat duit kan. In the last financial crisis ni kan, buat 2 juta profit lah, flipping property, to the point, even after bayar PGT, LHDN, sebelum saya bayar additional 0.5 juta tax. Okay. Sebab buat hampir 2 juta kan profit kan, I kena bayar additional setengah juta tax. But you know LHDN is LHDN. Kita ni timun, dia durian, kita golek kat dia, kita mati. Dia golek kat kita pun kita mati. So bayar je lah. Right? So fikiran saya adalah, okay lah, bayar je lah $500,000 ni. Sebab dah untung juta kan. So tak apalah bayar $500,000 ni. Dapat tu negara juga. Kan, berbanding dengan tak untung langsung, tak perlu nak bayar tax. Okay. So tu matlamat saya. Tapi macam saya cakap tadi, sebab kita orang tengah beli property 800,000 tapi sebenarnya kita orang tengah beli pada harga 500. Macam tu. So therefore, the first 200,000, 300,000 tu actually kita tak bayar tax pun. Okay. So tu kelebihan lagi satu beli primary market. Lepas tu nombor 5, saya bantu cari penyewa, menyediakan platform berkualiti untuk cari penyewa yang berkualiti. I don't help bukan klien untuk cari penyewa. Yang klien, yes, kita akan tolong buatkan kepada mereka yang miskin masa. Pak, I nak cerita pasal penyewa sikit. You kena faham and kenapa kita orang suka property baru. So property baru ni, you akan dapat different level of penyewa tau. Penyewa ni biasanya dia ada duit sikit. Sebab dia suka benda baru, benda yang lawa macam kondo ni kan. Orang tengok ni kan. Macam ni, right? Kondo-kondo lawa macam ni kan. So diorang ni berduit tau. So bila diorang ni berduit, diorang ni tak kisah sangat bayar sewa yang lebih tinggi berbanding dengan katalah korang sewa low cost ataupun apartment normal ni kan. Sebab segmen yang macam tu is memang segmen normally B40 yang memang diorang ni duit tu memang sikit. And gaya tu tak penting langsung lah untuk diorang. Tapi untuk orang yang duduk property macam ni, dia customize to certain level of lifestyle. Dia nak duduk kat tempat yang okay, kondo yang okay, facilities yang okay. And the other thing I have to also share juga is kenapa korang tak boleh expect penyewa daripada syurga kalau unit tu macam neraka. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Bagi contoh lah kan. Katalah kondo yang korang beli tu ataupun apartment yang korang beli tu ataupun low cost yang korang beli tu penuh dengan orang Rohingya. Right? Ada lembu dalam rumah, bela kambing dalam rumah kan. Tu jiran dia. You agak-agak you akan dapat penyewa macam mana pada lokal. Right? You are not going to get the CEO ataupun startup punya founder or OKB tu datang yang sewa from you. You're going to get orang yang betul-betul tak ada pilihan to come and rent. Right? So guys, penyewa daripada syurga tak akan melekat kat unit daripada neraka. Yang tu you kena remember. Sebab tu kalau you tengok unit kita pun, kita spend untuk renovation dengan finishing pun bukannya murah. Tapi taklah kata mahal. Jauh lebih murah berbanding dengan pakai ID yang RM100,000 ni. Tapi at the same time, it's not low cost of RM10,000. Tak ada. Right? Even my clients yang kita orang ajar buat DIY, cost dia bawah RM15,000 je. Tapi look dia memang orang tengok, ini nampak mahal ni. Right? So bila nampak mahal, orang nak negotiate pun takut. Macam ni lah. If you drive a Lamborghini, orang nak minta discount, from your fees lah, katalah you lawyer ke apa, so takut sikit lah. Kalau you bawa kereta yang biasanya tak berapa mahal ni, orang akan sesatakan for discount. Because they are value for money. I know my friend and my mentor juga, mamak ni umur 50, Ferrari ada 3. Right? And he's an interior designer and architect kan. Mamat ni memang power gila lah. Cakap, for me, he's a real Sifu level lah. Kalau I ni betul-betul, actually at my level ni, I ni ikan bilis je kalau bandingkan dia. Okay? Kawan ni, okay, I punya mentor ni guys, dia boleh sewa banglo dia 30,000, 40,000 sebulan, satu biji. Cash flow dia 10,000 satu property. But bukan semua orang boleh buat lah benda yang macam dia buat ni, tapi dia berjaya buat and dia buat berkali-kali. So benda tu bukan nasib. Right? And dia biasanya kalau dia jumpa orang, dia tak perkenalkan dia sebagai arkitek. Dia akan tunjuk kad dia sebagai, saya ni Ferrari Clubnya tu. Sebab biasanya dia cakap, bila dia tunjuk macam tu, orang takkan negotiate harga sangat. So, tips saya belajar dia, okay, tu masuk akal. Right? So, therefore, like I said, daripada segi penyewa ni, you nak penyewa yang okay, unit you kena okay juga. Ada sebab. That's why my mentor boleh sewa 30,000, 40,000 punya banglo. Sebab unit ni agak-agak dia beli dia punya furniture tu agak-agak pada mana? IKEA? Mestilah tak. So unit dia bukan kaleng-kaleng jugalah. So yang tu pasal soalan penyewa. Lepas tu, okay, nombor 6. Okey, apa akan jadi kalau pemaju yang sebelum ni kuat tiba-tiba jadi gulung tikar disebabkan kesulitan ekonomi global yang sangat dahsyat ni? Okey. Now, ini adalah soalan yang legitimate. Cuma, I think you kena faham sikit undercon punya game ni macam mana. Pemaju, okey, biasanya dia akan beli tanah tu, lepas tu dia akan buat drawing lawa-lawa, arkitek dapat approval apa semua tu, and then dia akan jual projek dia, right, kepada kita semua. Right? And then kita bayar deposit, kita sign SPA, kita buat loan, okay? Yang bina projek tu bukan pemaju tu sendiri biasanya. Yang bina projek tu adalah kontraktor yang pemaju ni appoint untuk bina benda ni. So, bila dalam krisis ekonomi macam ni, apa yang bakal berlaku adalah kontraktor ni ada kebarangkalian untuk bungkus. Okay? Pemaju ni actually okay je sebab bank bayar dia dan baru dia bayar kontraktor. If kontraktor ni dah bungkus, tak boleh sambung kerja, so what can happen is that dia just tukar je kontraktor. Okay, dia just tukar je kontraktor. So, jangan samakan pemaju, developer dengan kontraktor. Kontraktor diambil oleh pemaju untuk bina benda tu. So, apa yang akan berlaku is that bila kita buat loan tu kan, katalah loan kita 90% kan, dia akan bayar 10%. Siap lantai kita, dia bayar 10%. Siap kita punya dinding, dia bayar 15%. Bank akan bayar kepada pemaju tu akan bayar kontraktor. So, even if kontraktor tu tutup, biasanya pemaju tu masih okey, dia je boleh ambil kontraktor baru untuk terus sambungkan projek. Now, apa orang cakap signal kalau you nak tahu, untuk tahu projek tu ada kebarangkalian siap dia tinggi ataupun tak. Okay, now, I bagi ni hint mahal, and I bayar harga yang mahal untuk belajar ilmu ni. Okay? And hintnya adalah, kalau pemaju tu boleh jual minima 75% hingga 80% pada projek tu, kebarangkalian dia untuk terbengkalai itu is less than 1%. Okay? I repeat. Pemaju tu boleh jual minima 75% hingga 80%. Katalah unit ada 1,000, dia dapat jual 800. Kebarangkalian dia untuk terbengkalai projek tu is almost zero. Sebab cash daripada bank dah cukup untuk bayar construction cost semua. So, dia punya profit biasanya pemaju ni akan buat last 20%. So, 80% tu cost dia, 20% tu profit dia. Dia dapat jual 80%, cost semua dah cover, guys. Ya, dia tak payah nak jual lagi 20% tu pun, projek tu masih boleh continue. Okay? So, tip yang pertama. Tip yang kedua, okay, ada beberapa loan, terutamanya Islamic loan yang you boleh ambil hari ni, whereby kalau you ambil loan tu, in the event pemaju tu you tengok kan, tak yakin je rupa pemaju ni kan, you ambil loan daripada beberapa bank ni, especially Islamic loan, in the event whereby kalau betul-betul projek tu terbengkalai, bank tu akan cancelkan loan. Ada. Last kali adalah, actually kalau projek tu terbengkalai, it's not the worst thing in the world. Okay. I pernah cerita kat Facebook kot, this project called dulu namanya Platinum Damansara, right? Platinum Damansara ni waktu saya fresh grad dulu, diorang dah start mula jual. Harga RM180,000 untuk rumah 2 bilik dengan 3 bilik dekat arah Damansara. Alright? So, harga tak mahal sangat. Lepas tu projek tu terbengkalai hampir 7-8 tahun, guys. 7 tahun terbengkalai. Owner seksa. Technically seksa. Okay? Tapi unit yang diorang beli 200,000 tu, lepas siap tu jual pada harga 600,000. Okay. Memanglah kena bayar interest katalah RM500 sebulan kan, untuk 7 tahun. Cuba kira, RM500 sebulan, 6,000 setahun, betul? Kali dengan 7 tahun. 6,000 setahun kali dengan 7 tahun berapa? 42,000, betul tak? Now guys, if I bagi you peluang, you bayar 42,000 hari ni, and you dapat 400,000, lepas 7 tahun you ambil tak peluang tu? Right? For me, I will ambil lah. Okay? What I'm trying to say here is that just because project tu stall ataupun terbengkalai, it doesn't mean it's game over. It just means duit you akan buat lambat sikit. And sometimes buat duit lambat tu, you actually make a lot more compared to buat awal. Sebab kalau siap on time, you dah jual, you beli 200,000, you jual pada harga 250,000, 300,000, you buat 50,000, 100,000 je. Tapi mereka yang terbengkalai ni, 400,000. Ada yang buat 500,000. Right? So again, you know, untuk orang yang ada ilmu, benda-benda project stall ataupun delay ataupun even terbengkalai ni is not something yang menakutkan sangat actually. Ya. So, itu tips saya nak bagi. Oh, banyak ni ilmu rahsia saya kongsi malam ni. I should really start charging this group. Okay, soalan nombor 7. Jika membeli property ketika recession, boleh tak dapat penyewa? Jika sewaan sebanyak 2-3 ribu sebulan untuk cover penghasilan sekarang, mungkin bajangan untuk jangka masa 6 bulan. Okay, apakah jalan penyelesaiannya? Okay, so simply cakap, aku nak kena bayar bank 2-3 ribu sebulan ni, macam mana nak cover? Ada ke penyewa nak bayar? Sebab tu guys, the last kriteria daripada 7 kriteria kita cakap pasal beli property under con ni is that benda ni yang kita panggil multiple rental option. Apa option you? Plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E. Okay, untuk dapatkan break even. Okay. So now, you tengok property ni. Sewa normal 1,900. Buat Airbnb pun takkan dapat cover 5,000 tu. So you don't even have plan A or plan B untuk survive. Property ni confirm mati. Right? And I dah tahu benda ni sebelum property ni siap pun sebab kita dah tahu familiar dengan market rental kat JB. Tak adanya orang nak bayar 5,000 kat situ. Right? Tak ada, tak wujud. Okay? Dan you tengok property macam ni. Okay? Dia beli 1 bedroom pada harga 1 juta. Right? And therefore installment dia 5,000 sebulan. Now guys, 1 bilik mana boleh dapat sewa 5,000 sebulan? It's impossible. So the question here is that yang kita kena tanya every time kita nak beli apa-apa property. Tak kira lah even primary market ke ataupun subsale ke ataupun lelong ini. Is that berapa strategi sewaan yang kita bakal ada untuk pastikan yang sewa tu boleh cover. Plan A, plan B, plan C. And kalau contoh market recession macam ni whereby orang tak berduit sangat untuk bayar plug 5,000, kita ada tak strategi sewaan lain yang kita boleh guna pakai untuk dapat roughly sewa yang sama, right? Daripada beberapa penyewa. Okay, so which is why apa yang kita cakap here is that ada cakap dah 7 kriteria ni sangat-sangat penting. Korang follow, korang selamat. Korang tak follow, nasib lah guys. Jangan lepas tu cakap apa pula saya belajar dengan Faizul, saya beli property, lepas masuk webinar dia yang cuma ni, lepas tu saya rugi. Semua salah Faizul, right? I rasa memang ada ni, dia yang dengar separuh ni, webinar ni. So please don't do that to me. I dah cakap berkali-kali semua webinar. 7 rule tu you kena obey, you kena follow. Jangan masuk under con kalau you tak faham 7 ni. Okay, main jauh-jauh. Balik. I'm interested to be far capital client tapi I tak ada property lagi. I just work for 2 years, capital tak strong. So I'm stuck between becoming client ataupun saving more for my capital. So here's the thing. If you become a far capital client, you actually do not need a lot of capital to go buy property. So senang cerita macam ni ya. You ada capital 10,000 pun you boleh beli property kat far capital. You ada capital 200,000 pun you still boleh beli property kat far capital. So your capital tu tak penting langsung. Right? If you ada more capital, you ada more option. So sebagai contoh kan, macam tadi kan, okay. So these are property yang kita orang tengah beli, right? Ni ada 4. Yang nombor 1 dengan nombor 2 is property yang perlukan capital. So maksudnya kalau you punya capital tak cukup at least 20-30 ribu, you cannot even buy the grade A one. Tapi grade B doesn't require a lot of capital. So basically, okay, kalau you tak ada capital, you just beli grade B lah. Tapi janganlah kamu complain, aku datang nak jadi klien sebab aku nak beli grade A, tapi kau cakap tak boleh. Bukan tak boleh, you tak ada duit. If you ask you to go and spend whatever money you have untuk beli grade A, then you tak ada saving, tiba-tiba kena buang kerja, Faizul lagi kena salah. Okay, guys, beli benda yang sesuai dengan budget korang. Right, so it doesn't matter whether you are a client or you are not a client. Beli benda yang korang faham and macam mana nak sustainkan benda. Okay, so I hope that answers your question whether you perlukan capital ataupun tak. Sebab to be honest, if you have capital, great. If you don't have capital, okay je. We don't care. Now, nombor 9. Kalau dah terbeli under con tapi belum siap, masih bayar, kalau rasa apartment tu not a good for investment. Ni cerita sedih sikit. Dah beli tapi lepas dah masuk belajar kat FRPG, tengok 7 kriteria ni, macam semua kriteria tu bakal fail. Okay? Banyak orang yang mengamuk dekat saya hari ni sebab saya cakap property dia tak bagus. Walaupun benda tu tak siap bukan fakta hakiki, tapi masalahnya mereka orang ni lupa yang kita orang ni study semua property. There are certain things yang kita orang boleh predict 3 hingga 5 tahun lagi awal. So benda tu bukan magic, cuma kita orang ni ada data. Macam we have dulu kawan now dah meroyan sebab cakap property dia grade E. I mean, you beli satu bilik dekat kawasan mana-mana pada harga 1 juta, beratus ribu, you nak kena sewa 4,000 untuk cover, memanglah property takkan dapat punya. I mean, like, the data is very clear. Alright. So nasihat saya kepada mereka yang dah terbeli property yang salah ni, jangan beli lagi until you dah tambahkan ilmu. Tu number one. Number two here is that maybe you can consider beli property yang much better after you dah belajar ni, supaya you boleh tanggung sikit kat sini negatif teruk kan, bocor 1,000-2,000 sebulan ni. Carilah property yang boleh cover 1,000 sebulan. Right? So contoh macam yang nombor 1 tu kan, dapat 1,000 sebulan kan. So at least tak adalah sakit sangat daripada property yang negatif 1,000-2,000 ni. So kalau yang ni negatif 1,000, yang ni positif 1,000, dia jadi kosong. Right? So ilmu tu boleh tukar your situation. Sebab kat Malaysia you tak boleh nak jual property under construction. Okay, tapi ni benda yang boleh buat kalau you baru booking ataupun baru dapat loan you proof. You boleh cancelkan purchase tu selagi tak disburse. So kalau you dah booking a property and you rasa property tu sebenarnya alamak tak bagus lah. Tengok Faizul ni macam shipment dia dah takut-takut aku kan. Dan ni satu lagi sebab kenapa orang benci dengan saya kan. And you dah mula tak yakin dengan property you. Selagi loan you tak disburse, you boleh cancelkan SPA, you boleh cancelkan your loan agreement. Selagi loan tu tak disburse daripada bank. Once tak disburse, game over, terlambat, kau tanggung lah property tu sampai bila-bila. Right? So you just, kalau you dah tersalah beli, you better pray that saya punya prediction of property buruan akan berlaku, supaya walaupun property kita tak bagus, sebab property buruan tu ada kebarakalan property kita pun naik sekali. So bila you nak jual waktu tengah peak of buruan tu, you jual pada harga you tak rugi, mungkin boleh untung sikit. So you better pray I'm right lah. Ya. So itu apa nak buat bila dah tersalah beli. Now nombor 3, last kali, nombor 10 adalah saya dah beli 2 rumah dekon tapi duduk belum siap, saya nak beli property ketiga untuk investment capital rendah. Capital yang rendah maksudnya you tengah cerita ni pasal property ketiga, loan you is 70% kan. Senang je guys, belilah property yang ada 30% discount. Still zero down payment, capital rendah walaupun property yang ketiga. Right? So macam for example for us yang grade B ni, nombor 3 dengan nombor 4 ni, nombor 3 punya discount is about 29%, yang nombor 4 punya discount is roughly about 34%. Okay, so if you beli property macam nombor 3 dengan nombor 4 ni, you tak payah pakai capital pun. Right? So guys, I dah jawab 10 soalan yang panas hari ni, right? And I think you've gotten a lot of value, Christina. So I'm going to take 2 lagi soalan daripada public, right? And then we can call it a night. Then we can go to the announcement.
Okay. So those yang tak selected, sorry. I like my team to answer your questions as well. So my team,
Yes.
please answer the questions. Anyway, soalan yang pertama. From Master Rishalin. How do you know the percentage of the house are sold off?
How do I know percentage of the house sold off? Okay. Actually, this is a damn good question. I want to thank you for asking
Yeah,
me.
that's why I pick it.
Okay. So you don't know if the percentage of the house sold off until project tu biasanya dilancarkan dan apa semua tu. So which is why insyaAllah next week I'm going to teach you the most important information you need to know, which is this idea of median price point. Okay. So median harga ni, for example, let me use an example. Let's talk about Mont Kiara. Okay. Today, median harga of sub-sale unit kat Mont Kiara. So that means average harga people willing to pay to buy Mont Kiara today is roughly about 1.1 million. Okay. So listen, median in Mont Kiara is roughly about 1.1 million. So if this developer launches something at 700-800 ribu, is it harga pertengahan 50% is 1.1? Is it below or above? So it's below, right, at 700,000 or 800,000. So I know that this developer will not have problem selling up to 80%. Sebab 50% of people who buy sub-sale kat Mont Kiara today are already paying 1.1 million onwards. When you sell something at 700,000, 800,000, you got no problem selling lah. Right? So therefore, we know. Now, number 2 here, that is the advantage of moving as a group. So today, for example, I'm buying a property from a public listed punya developer. Okay? So public listed quite steady lah kan. Risk dia kurang sikit banding dengan non-listed company, right? And dia punya sales status is only 40%. Okay? But they've already given us mandate at this certain discount, we need to move sales to about 70 to 80%. So, dulu dia tak dapat nak jual bagus-bagus sebab dia discount is only 12%. Harga dia tinggi berbanding dengan median. But now, my price, I'm paying below median of that kawasan, and therefore I know for sure we'll be able to basically, I think easily lah, our clients will buy about 100 to 150 units from this development. Therefore, we will move it from 40% to now 70%. Okay. So therefore, 2 things. Satu here is that harga kena betul, therefore it's not difficult to understand. Certain project will do well, certain project don't do well. Okay. Number 2 here is that, are you moving in the group to make sure that our risk cumulatively becomes lower? Sebab, with group like us, whereby we are buying 100, 150, 200, kadang-kadang 800 units per development, we'll know for sure we'll hit the 70 to 80%. So it's 2 things. Satu, you kena tengok harga tu, masuk akal ke tak versus the current inventory tu, median tu. So that one, if you want to do it individually. Second one, as a group, you can move the 30%, 40% sales status to become 70% within the space of 1 year. Right? So therefore, for us, kita orang ada clarity lah. But of course, these are not public information. These are only for clients je yang akan tahu. But like I said lah, it's one of the way to make sure that developer will have enough money to complete the project. Okay? I hope I answered that question. Anyway, I really want to thank you for asking that because I think that's a damn good question. It's quite advanced. I like you already. Okay, last question, please.
Okay, so from Roger Anthony LDI. Betul ke more cashback means project developer finding it hard to sell?
Tak faham soalan dia. Can you repeat?
Betul ke if more cashbacks means project developer finding it hard to sell? Meaning to say, if they offer more cashback, is it because of the property is hard to sell?
Okay. Actually, that's a damn good question and probably will address the point of hari ni diorang keluarkan report 40 billion ringgit of completed property unsold. Right? So, I will answer your question sekali dengan data ni I akan tunjukkan. Okay, now. So, 40 billion of property unsold, okay, as of today dekat Malaysia, based on the 2019 numbers. When you look at it here, dekat sini, the state yang ada paling banyak unit tak terjual adalah Johor. Tengok yang bawah tu, Johor. Sebab selatan mungkin dia juga paling tinggi, tak ada kita, gurau je, right? But Johor has got the highest number of unsold unit, okay, which is why answering the question yang tadi dengan this one sekali is that you must understand this idea of median harga. Now, average harga unit tak terjual kat Johor, okay, harga unit tak terjual kat Johor is 800,000 ke atas. That's the average harga unit tak terjual kat Johor. Do you know how much the average Johorian will pay to buy a property in Johor? 360,000 and below. Let me repeat. Average unsold unit, 800,000 above. What people are willing to pay to beli kat Johor as of today is only 360,000 and below. So you see a problem or not why these units are unsold. These units are unsold not because the developer is smart. It's not because the project is so good cuma tak ada buyer. The reason why it's unsold is simply because harga dia terlampau mahal versus what people are willing to pay. So, to answer your question just now, kalau bagi rebate, cashback, is it because project tu susah nak jual? The answer is absolutely yes. So, you go from harga tak masuk akal tu, Now, after you bagi discount tu, you become closer to what people are willing to pay. Which is why, like I said, one of the most important thing a under construction property investor must learn and understand is this idea of median harga. You understand concept of median harga, you buat duit from buying primary market. You don't understand median harga, you will lose money. All my Johor property, I bought at 240,000 and below. Right? Siap naik pergi 330, 300.5. Why? Because I know Johorian don't pay above 350,000. Okay, on average. So I make money in Johor, but is there a lot of people losing money in Johor? Everyone who bought Dangabe, everyone who's bought the mainland Chinese New development, okay, anyone who has bought the Medini has not made money in the last few years. I am still making money because I didn't pay, the median is 300.5, I pay below it. I don't pay above it. Okay, so when you see 40 billion worth of unsold inventory, I can guarantee you, and this is like a guarantee, 100% guarantee, the reason why it's unsold is simply because it's selling way above the median harga kat kawasan tu. Macam median Mont Kiara is 1.1 juta, developer tu jual 2.5 juta. So therefore, dia tak terjual. Tu dia mengadu kat bank, alah bank tak approve loan aku. No. You greedy bastards, and that's why you couldn't sell your property. Right? So it's not because of property market is bad, or bank negara tak bagi pinjaman, or maybe bank jahat tak approvekan loan kau. No. Your property is overpriced, overvalued, it doesn't make sense, and therefore you have to kurangkan harga in order for it to be able to sell. Okay? So I really want to thank those two questions because like I said, I think it's hampir terlupa nak cerita pasal the unsold punya 41 billion ni tadi until you point out that one. So basically it can be in a situation whereby, katalah for example today, right, the Johor property average 800,000 yang tak terjual ni, and suddenly they want to give a 50% discount. It becomes 400,000. Now, I would buy a 400,000. I would buy a 50% discount. Right? I wouldn't mind sebab I understand the premium of new versus old. Remember? 30% premium. Dah cerita dah. Ni kalau tak faham, pergi tengok video semalam. Okay? But, at 50% discount, I will buy. It's not because of the cashback. I bought because now harga dia dah lebih kurang, tak lari jauh pada median. And I understand the premium of new versus old. Right? Guys, it's now more than 1 hour already. I hope you really enjoyed the session tonight. I think I've given a lot of insight, a lot of secret. Yang you bayar beribu pun, you will not be able to get lah, simply because most of these people tak ada pun those kind of experience. I've been doing this for now more than 15 years. So Alhamdulillah, I can impart some of this knowledge. So again, if the hot topic tonight is multiple sub, like I said, it's like driving a supercar. If you're a lousy driver, you're going to crash the car. Okay? If you're a good driver, it will be a very enjoyable drive. Okay? So similarly, multiple submission. You beli property yang bagus, you nak beli sebanyak property yang boleh, you beli property tai, you don't really even want to buy one. Don't even think about the multiple submission. Okay? So apa tu? And with that, like I said, padan muka, the greedy property developers, and today we see an opportunity as well, right? So macam tadi hari ni, I just had a conversation with the developer who's trying to sell something at a price which is not reasonable, dan kita orang tunjuk data, and then they baru realise that the harga tu dia kena jatuhkan by about 15% more to allow people to break even at least. So senang je kita beritahu developer, if you jual at people can break even, orang akan beli property you, but you jual pada harga yang orang negative cash flow 1,000, siapa nak beli, right? And of course for them, dia macam mula ada kesedaran sikit kan, kenapa semua tu, and of course for them, okay, they talk to us simply because, well, kalau kita jadi beli for this group discount ni, kita akan beli at least 20-30 biji. So it's easy to get additional 10-15% discount when you buy 20 to 30 units. Right? So for me, I see it as an opportunity when I see unsold inventory, because I can now negotiate hard, my price, not their price. Okay? So with that, I think that's the end of the webinar tonight. I have a couple of announcements juga. First and foremost, to all new clients of Far Capital, I really want to humbly apologize, for the shortcoming in our services. Number one, we have a lot of volume of new clients coming in, which is we didn't expect. Okay, so therefore kita orang kena tukar proses, because you have to understand, kalau dulu boleh pergi office dan apa semua tu, boleh buat banyak benda. Now I have my team scattered, right? And we just can't serve new clients gunakan the old process. So please bear with us, have a little bit of patience, because we are now very close to concluding our new process, and inshallah that new process will ensure that your experience dengan FAR Capital become extremely seamless. Okay, and for that also, I want to explain to you what the new process is in the next client punya webinar, 9:30 ya Kis, on Monday. Right?
Yes.
So Christina will send you an email to inform you on our new Facebook group, our new process, our new guideline and kit and apa semua tu, apa benda yang nak kena prepare before datang next Monday tu. So again, I really apologize. My team sampai kerja sampai sakit, reply message sampai pukul 2-3 pagi. And it's not your fault, PKP, orang bosan kat rumah, therefore, you message my team. But, we are human, and sometimes terlepas certain messages apa semua tu. So again, I apologize for that. And again, we are designing a new process to make sure kita tak ada all this gap, and kita akan announce this new process on Monday. So looking forward to see you guys on Monday, inshallah. Christina will send you an email shortly right after this session. So please, don't worry. We will do whatever it takes, like I said, to make sure that you have the largest advantage in the next property bull run. Inshallah stock sekali. So that is still our promise. With that, I thank you for your patience in terms of dengan kita orang ni, kesian Amalina sampai demam, migraine, tengok screen phone dia tu pun dia tak boleh, dia jadi hitam, right? To that point lah, right? So second thing here is that, like I said guys, I'm sharing a lot of very important, number one, and very useful knowledge that you just cannot get elsewhere dekat dalam group ni, right? For now, the group is free. If you are already in this group, you can thank your lucky star because, well, you took the advantage and it will continue to be free for you. But after PKP ends, kita akan mula charge a few $100. So therefore, if you have family member or friends that you think will benefit from this sharing, bawa diorang masuk sebelum kita orang charge. So, tak tipu, not a gimmick. Okay? Now, then as usual, every Friday night, jam 10, kita akan buat klien punya, we have a lot of inquiries of people who wants to become a client of FAR Capital. Sebab, well, korang nak beli property yang macam ni, right? And you're not confident of, mastering the 7 rules on yourself, and you agree with our philosophy, right? So therefore, I'll see you tomorrow night, jam 10 malam. Okay, whereby we discuss our strategy of pembelian, kriteria property yang kita bakal beli, and I can tell you what's the requirement to apply to become a client, and how do we then become a client for free, right? So inshallah, I'll see you tomorrow night jam 10 sharp, and the rest of the FRPG members, I'll see you again next week, next Tuesday for our next webinar, inshallah. Guys, love you. Assalamualaikum. Take care. Write notes, do a summary of whatever you belajar malam ni. Name 3 benda lah yang you belajar paling power malam ni, and then just put it in the ruangan comment so that you can, you dengar ni, you faham sikit, but once you tulis and you actually post something, you will able to retain a lot more than 50%. Okay, so do it for yourself, not for me, right? So therefore, inshallah kita jumpa lagi next week. Assalamualaikum guys, love you guys, see you next week.